welcome to our podcast, Those Twins Who Knit. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is our space where we just like to talk about all the things that we've been working on, which is usually like 90% knitting, but we do have a little bit of sewing that we finished today that we want to talk about.
And it has been a while since our last podcast, like more than a month.
6 or 7 weeks probably.
Yeah, so I
Just
feel
too
like
long.
I feel like there's a lot to talk about. So this one may be a longer episode, we'll see. But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Also, while we are very much in the mindset that it's fall and all of our projects are very fall focused, it is also 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside today, so
It's hot still.
if we end up taking our sweaters off, that's why.
It has not felt like fall at all, although in my mind it feels like fall. Like we've done pumpkin patches and drinking cider and like all that, we're just pretending that it's fall, but the leaves really haven't even changed color at this point, which is very unusual for this time of year for our region of the world. I don't know.
I know. Usually Halloween is freezing cold.
Yes, it is like snowed on Halloween before where we're at, so
we'll see if that actually happens this year, but I'm kind of banking on it not, which is going to be really weird.
I think it's finally going to drop down to the 60s maybe next week, but that's, I don't know, it's just been an interesting time. So anyway, we are in fall even if outside is not.
Yes. Speaking of which, do you want to talk about your finished object?
Yes.
What you're wearing?
Yes, this is my only finished garment. I've got one other. I feel like I've done so much knitting recently and not finished anything, but that's okay. This is my cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I knit it in Are Knitters Meripaca. I think the color was called Poppy. And they kindly sent me that yarn, so I didn't pay for that one. But then I paired it with a Knitting for Olive Mohair in the color Red Currant, mostly because I was worried about pilling with just the yarn by itself. And I don't think I made any modifications to the pattern. I really enjoyed knitting this one. It has kind of inspired me to like want to add more color. I just feel like I had so much good inspiration around it. Like I've been seeing red a lot. You knit a red sweater. You knit the Lakes pullover by Ozetta.
Yep.
And our friend Liz knit a red cardigan, and our friend Paige knit a red cardigan. And I think that the knitting page knit this as well, because I was going back and watching some of her older ones, and she knit, I think, the exact same pattern in red. And I don't know, I've just been seeing so many red cardigans and red in the wardrobe recently, so I was just very inspired to finish this one. And I'm wearing it with my Zamora skirt, which is a skirt, sorry, you can't probably see all of it, but I'm wearing it with a skirt that I sewed earlier in the year, and I just think that they're really cute together. So that's what I'm wearing.
Very Scandi vibes.
Yes.
I'm wearing the book club cardigan by Sari Nordlund. So it's just like a cabled V-neck cardigan. I made mine in a dark green color, so I don't think the cables stand out quite as obviously as like some of the ones that were made in a lighter color. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think it's really cute. So I made the second size for the body, and then I went up a size in the sleeves based on a lot of like feedback that I saw from other people on like Ravelry and Instagram and stuff, that the sleeves run really small. And sorry, I'm gonna like stretch over here. I'm glad I did, because sorry, I have like an end that I need to weave in there. I mean, they're definitely like not super tight, like they've fit, but they're not like oversized the way that a lot of cardigan sleeves are. So I'm glad I went up and did that.
Yeah, I would rather have too big in the sleeves than too small personally. So it's nice that people have given that advice.
Yes. Also, a lot of people mentioned that the yardage for this pattern is off, and I definitely think that was the case, because I used Woolstok worsted by Blue Sky Fibers, and I purchased the 150 gram skeins, which I really love working with that yarn, because I feel like it's like less ends to weave in later when you don't have to, like, tie in a whole bunch of new, like, skeins.
Yeah.
But when I did the math, I think it told me that I only needed 3 of those skeins, but I purchased a 4th one because I got it when it was on sale, and I was like, oh, might as well. If I have like an extra one, I'll make a hat, or I'll figure out something.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'd rather have a little bit extra than not enough. And I did end up like winding up that 4th yarn and using a little bit of it. I should have waited. I don't know exactly how much I used, but I used a good amount to where like I wouldn't have been able to finish the sweater if I hadn't have had it. Also, this button band takes forever. I always think the button bands are gonna be like a super quick one-day thing, and that's never the case. I don't know why in my brain that happens, but this button band especially just took so long.
I wish I could remember who it was because I thought it was the funniest thing ever. But somebody who I have on Instagram posted in their stories at one point, and they were like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it was this cardigan, and they were like, probably still knitting this button.
Yes.
That is, like, oh no.
That is so accurate. It took so long. But it was worth it. I think it's really cute. I'm really excited to wear this a lot this fall. I don't remember where I got these buttons. I just had them in stash, but I think they're cute and go pretty well with it. So I'm super happy with it. I didn't do like any of the modifications on the shoulder to, like the seam where a lot of folks made this look a little bit cleaner. I just followed the pattern instructions the way that Sari Nordlund wrote it. I don't know if I said that, but this pattern is by Sari Nordlund. So, yeah.
We also haven't talked about you got bangs.
Oh, I did get bangs.
I thought it was hilarious because I had my hair appointment earlier. I had mine on Wednesday, and I was telling the stylist, like the girl we see, I was like, you should talk Jessica into getting bangs. And then you had your appointment and you did it, and I was like, that's so funny.
I did it.
But now that I see it on you, I kind of want to
should do
copy.
it.
Yeah,
We should all get bangs for fall.
Yes, I have been doing a little bit more clay in my classroom and like just personally, and I've been like pulling my hair back a lot, so I'm a little nervous about having like hair in my face, but it's so cute. I really like it. So
thank you.
I don't know. I might do it.
Do it.
Okay, so we should move on to other finished objects.
Okay. Well, the only other sweater that I have finished since our last podcast is this Esther sweater by PetiteKnit that I knit out of Ultra Alpaca by Barocco. So it's just a super textured drop shoulder sweater.
I love it.
I don't know. It's so cute. It's been a minute since I finished this. I don't remember a whole lot other than I do remember oh my gosh, I don't know if I still have it. I purchased 5 skeins of yarn for this, and I had like an itty bitty amount left over.
Did you start to get nervous?
A little bit, but what I ended up, a little bit, only in the sense that I thought like, oh, maybe the ribbing will be like slightly cropped, but I ended up having the perfect amount. I was able to do everything according to the recommendations. So really didn't run into any issues there or anything. I did do like the neckband and the sleeves and everything, and did the body last just in case I ran out. But I was super happy with it. I think I talked about this last time, but one thing that is kind of unique about this pattern is that the instructions don't necessarily say to make sure that the sleeve motif, I guess, lines up with the back shoulder, but in all of her pictures that's how it is, so I had to be really careful picking up stitches to make sure that those lined up, and I think it looks really nice and crisp. Something else that was kind of funny about this sweater is that in most PetiteKnit patterns I just go up a needle size. And so while I'm usually really good about gauge swatching, for this one I was like, oh, I've knit a ton of PetiteKnit sweaters. I know I always just go up a needle size. I'll just do that. And then I knit the entire back portion of the yoke, and it was just looking way too small. So I got out the measuring, like the ruler, and it was way too small. Like I knew even with blocking it wasn't gonna grow as much as it needed to in order to get to the exact gauge. So unfortunately, I ended up working a gauge swatch to confirm that was correct. I was right. It wasn't going to work out. And so I had to rip back the whole back and then redo it. But, you know, it was worth it in the end. And that was kind of a lesson learned for me. Like, even when I think I don't need to gauge swatch, I probably do. But yeah,
it's a hard lesson.
I'm very happy with how it turned out. I love textured knits like this. So this was super fun for me to knit up. And I'm very happy with it.
It's beautiful. I love it. I've got one other finished object, and it is socks. Oh, they're like kind of hairy. So these are the Quilty Cabin socks by Horsefeather Fibers. You can see they've got this little cute colorwork motif on the cuff. They were so fun to work up. And I knit it in Coast to Coast Classic sock in the color Midnight Crescent from the Coffee collection, or Coffee House collection. And then the white is Button, which I think she's had several collections with it, but I just had it left over from other things that I've made before. And I believe I sized up a little bit from what I normally would do, because I've knit several colorwork socks in the past that I ended up frogging because they were so tight. And these are the first colorwork socks that have made it. So I've knit several before and never kept them, or I've even like finished one and then decided not to knit the other because like, what's the point if you know it's not going to work? And I don't know, I feel like the tension on socks especially is so tricky because you want it to fit in the leg part, like your ankle, but then getting it over the widest part where your heel is has been a challenge. So I did it. I was very excited that these work, and they're very just cute.
They're so cute.
So that's the only other finished object I've had so far. I feel like I've been knitting so much, so I'll probably have more later, but those are the only things I've finished.
Well, I finished 2 more pairs of socks since then. So I'll talk about the first one. These are the Cassandra socks by Sunday Morning Knits. Oh, there we go. Hopefully it shows. And this was a secret test knit that she was doing alongside Paisley Knits. I'll try to show. There's a big braided cable that goes down the middle along with these 2 little side cables. So it was super fun to work up. And it was pretty easy too, because most rows you can just like, you know, knit the knits, purl the purls. But every couple rows you would do the little cable motif. So it was like some rows were a little mindless and some rows kept your attention more. So it was kind of a good balance of like both, if you will. And at the time that we did this test knit, they weren't named. They were just called like the secret socks or whatever, or secret test knit socks or something. They didn't have an official name. So she came up with the name later, and I was really excited to see that it was the Cassandra socks, since that's, you know, a pretty famous Taylor Swift song from the Tortured Poets. And this is Farmer's Daughter Fibers Bear Paw that I think I purchased from Wool & Company. But yeah, it's super cute. I will say the one thing that I kind of wish I had changed, usually when I'm knitting socks, I do like 64 stitches on size US 2, or I'll do 72 stitches on size US 1, and those give me approximately the same size socks. But I've been kind of wanting to experiment with making my socks a little bit tighter, just so that, you know, when they like stretch out and grow, they've got a little bit more wiggle room to do so without them getting like too big. And so I went down to a size US 1.5 and did 64 stitches. And I think that would have been perfect if it weren't for this cable, because this cable is like pretty thick and it's the braided pattern. It cinches in this one section quite a bit more than I had really anticipated. So these are just, I can still get them on and they fit really good once they're on, but they're like slightly snugger than I had anticipated that they would be. And I think, you know, over time they're gonna grow and they'll be perfect. So like, it's not that big of a deal, but right now they did turn out like barely smaller than I had wanted them to, but that's entirely my fault because I did decide to kind of experiment a little bit. The pattern is very like particular with the gauge and gives really good instructions so that you have a really good fit. This was totally my bad, just wanting to experiment a little bit, but I'm kind of glad I did, because I do think the US 1.5 would be perfect if I had just done like a stockinette sock. I think it was because this particular cable,
it's like a bigger cable.
Yeah, it's like a bigger cable that has like a good amount of stitches crossing over. I think if it was like a sock that just had a bunch of like 1x1 cables or something where like it's not stretching the yarn quite as much, that would be okay too.
Well, and I think the tighter you knit the socks, I think the more they kind of hold up. So
yeah,
it's probably smart to go down a needle size, honestly.
Yeah. So yeah, very excited how this turned out, and very excited to knitwear socks from Laura in the future. And then the other pair of, or the other finished object that I have is also a pair of socks, but much simpler. These are my Chief socks. So these are just a pair of vanilla socks that I added some stripes to, and these use the Sewrellas in my Chiefs era sock set that she had available during last year's Super Bowl. So I think this is one I've talked about quite a few times, but I'm pretty excited with how they turned out. I think they're really cute. And yeah, I didn't follow a pattern. This one I did do 72 stitches on a size US 1 needle.
They're very cute.
They're very cute. We have a bye week this week, so I won't be wearing them this weekend, but hopefully next weekend.
Next time.
Yes.
And undefeated so far, so that feels really good.
I know. I'm hoping this is a good sign.
Yes.
I have enough left over of the white to use that as a main color, and then I could do the little stripe in yellow and then the big stripe in red. And then I think I could have like a home and an away pair. Someone commented that idea in one of our videos, and I was like, that is brilliant. I'm definitely going to do that. So I don't know when I'm going to get around to doing that, but that's definitely on my radar of something that I want to do.
It's so cute.
Next time I'm in the mood for just like a vanilla sock pattern, I think that's what I'm going to do.
I have that set too. I just haven't started it yet because I have so many other things I've been working on, and yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. Do you have any sewing finished objects?
Yes, I've got one, I think just one. I made another one of these Sid tie tops because I had this extra fabric from Merchant and Mills that I got forever ago, because when we first started sewing, I guess I say we, I don't know if this is we or me, but I was really lost on like, where do you buy fabric and what kind of fabric to buy, and just like not having a lot of knowledge about that. So I bought Merchant and Mills almost exclusively when I started sewing, because that's the company that I saw these people on Instagram that I like really looked up to. And now looking back, obviously I would still love Merchant Mills and still buy from them, but it's so funny to me that I would buy such expensive fabric and then not know what to do with it. And so I went back and stashed, and I had this fabric that I was like, this is really pretty and I need to do something with it. I've probably had it for like 3 or 4 years now. And I kept seeing this top on Pinterest, so I was like, that's pretty close. And so I somewhat duped the image that I saw on Pinterest to they said tie top, and just made kind of a fall version of it. I wish I could have given it sleeves, but I didn't have enough fabric. But I thought it turned out really cute, and I originally thought it would be cute with white or like linen pants, but then I saw on Pinterest that a lot of people put it with denim, so I don't know. I haven't worn it out a whole lot. I'm still kind of figuring out how I want to style it. It's getting like, it's still hot now, but eventually I think it will be cool, and I'll put a cardigan with it or something. But anyway, I just thought it was a really fun day project, and I was able to get a little bit of fabric out of stash, and yeah, that's what I've sewn recently.
Nice. I have 3 finished sewing projects, which is kind of wild because I don't feel like I've been sewing that much, but somehow I've got a few projects. So the first one that I have is the garden dress by Fruck Studio, and it has all of these beautiful little pin text on the front, which was super intimidating, but it really wasn't that bad once I got into it. I did make a lot of mistakes, so like it's one of those that I'm like, don't look at it too closely. It was like a learning process, But the fabric was thrifted, so it wasn't expensive or anything. So it was a good, just like practice piece that I'm really excited that I, at least got to at least try it out. And I want to make another one with nicer fabric now that I've done that. The problem with the fabric is that I don't know what the fiber content is. I'm assuming since it's a bed sheet, it probably has some sort of like polyester or acrylic or something. And I've never really sewn with that. Like you said, like I've mostly only sewed with like linen and cotton and things like that. And so I think I set my iron a little too hot. And when I was ironing the front pleats, I like burned it. It had all these little like you could see the like look of the iron in it. And so it was originally like kind of a lighter chestnut brown. And I ended up dyeing it with Rit dye to get it to be like a little bit of a deeper brown. And you can still kind of tell if you look closely that it has burn marks on it. But I do think that helped a lot.
Like the darker color maybe disguises it just a little bit better.
Yeah.
I like the darker color, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think it turned out really nice, actually. It was my first time dyeing with, like, the Rit synthetic dye, and so I had this old pasta pot that I basically donated to dye this, because I've heard once you dye something, you really shouldn't, like, cook with that pot anymore. So this is my sacrificial pot that I'd had since college that my husband has been wanting to replace forever. So it's like, okay, this is your chance to go buy a new pot, because I'm going to sacrifice this one. But it really wasn't that hard. I had to boil water, and then I think I added some like dish detergent. I followed the instructions to a T because I was really scared to mess it up. And then I stirred it for the entire 30 minutes. So that kind of took a long time, but I just like stood in my kitchen stirring it and watching TikToks, and we made it through. So yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. I don't know if it's gonna be like I don't know, I wouldn't wear it like to all occasions since it does have burn marks. I think it's more of just like a casual sort of thing, but I do want to make another one, and I think for just like a little practice piece it turned out really nice. Also, the thing I realized is I did not read the instructions for the seams close enough, because I was like, oh, I kind of know how the the side seams work, and the pattern actually has you do French seams, whereas I just did like the normal, where you sew like wrong sides together and then do the zigzag stitch and everything. So if I make it again, I want to try to actually do the French seams all the way down, and I think that'll make the inside just look super, super nice. So the next item that I finished was the Skyline dress by Sydney Graham, which I'd made this dress before, but I had made it in like a patchwork version, and so this time I wanted to try making it in a solid version. So I used fabric from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. It's like this little micro gingham and like a
so
red
pretty
color. So yeah, so I'm super excited with how that one turned out. I really don't have anything like exciting to report back on that one since I'd made the pattern before. It was pretty straightforward and easy, but yeah, I really love Sydney Graham's pattern. She always does such a good job, and they're always so like wearable and easy. So I've definitely been eyeing the Lane Pants pattern that she has as something that I want to make coming up in the near future.
I feel like I haven't done as much sewing recently just because I've got this like desire to finish something knitting wise. So I feel like if I take time for sewing, I'm taking away from knitting right now. But man, I have a lot of sewing projects that I would like to do soon.
Yeah. Well, the last one that I have is the Henrietta skirt, which I've made once before by Spaghetti Western Sewing. Is that what it is? Yeah, Spaghetti Western Sewing. And yeah, it's super easy, basic pattern. I love the like side gathers that make kind of a cute little, I don't know, it's just such a fun little detail having the gathers on the side, and then it's an elastic waistband, which makes it super easy to sew up. So this was a super quick knit. I was able to, or not knit, sewing project.
I do that all the time.
I was able to like cut the fabric and sew it all up in a day. So it went super fast. The only thing I realized is that I read the middle panel chart wrong this time, and I made it just a little bit too wide. Like the middle panel should be a little narrower in order to make the gathers stand out a little more. But I kind of realized after the whole thing was done, and at this point, I think it looks decent enough that I don't want to go and redo it.
Yeah.
So if it really bothers me, maybe I'll consider doing that. But I don't think it's like that big of a deal. The pattern, since it's all elastic and gathers, it's pretty forgiving with that sort of thing. So we're just going to see how we feel about that. But right now, I think it's okay. I think I like it the way it is. I've also realized this is like the third white skirt that I've sewn this year. So I think I just have a thing.
I'm wearing a white skirt
white
right now. They're very cute.
Yeah, because I made like a white poplin skirt, and I made 2 white poplin skirts. I guess this is my first white linen skirt, so that makes it a little different.
That's so different.
So different. It probably won't be my last one. I just really, I don't know, I wear white skirts a lot. And to me, they all serve like a little bit of a different purpose. Like my first poplin one is like, definitely has like the billowiest vibes. Like it feels a little more princessy. And then my Zamora skirt, I don't know how it feels different, but for some reason that one's different to me. It feels a little more like casual, like every day. And this one also feels a little, the Henrietta skirt feels a little more like day to day.
You've been doing a lot of sewing recently.
Yeah. I'm actually, one of the things that I really want to sew this fall is a jacket. And I want to get better about sewing with other fabrics, because like we were just talking about, like we've only ever sewn with like linen or cotton and like some of those fibers, but I really want to get better about understanding how like thicker fabrics work and just different techniques to work with.
Or stretchier. I'm so intimidated by stretchy ones.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons we're so excited to be partnering with Skillshare for today's video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, and passions to the next level.
Skillshare has announced some exciting improvements. They've created a new and improved class system, including smarter class categories, 3 new class topics, creative careers, creative inspiration, and AI and innovation, and the ability to find classes by software and material.
New members are asked to share a little bit about their interests when they sign up, and from there, Skillshare will immediately create recommendations tailored to their goals.
We've really enjoyed getting to know our sewing machines better through the course, The Sewing Machine, a crash course simplifying the art of garment making to help us understand different techniques our sewing machines are capable of and how to work with different fabrics.
So the first 500 people to use our link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare.
So thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Should we start going back to works in progress?
Sure.
How many works in progress do you have?
I have 3.
I have 4.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened. So I'll go first and then we'll bounce back and forth. I don't want to start with this one. Let's start with one that we've seen before. So this one I talked about last time, and maybe the time before that. It's been on the needles for a little bit. This is my jacket number 2 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And you can tell that it's not done yet, but we're getting pretty close here. It's got these really beautiful cables all throughout the entire thing. The back is completely cabled, the sleeves are completely cabled. I just really love how it looks all together. I will say this, and I'm somewhat questioning my choice-ish, is that I went up to a bulkier yarn than what the pattern recommends, and I was able to get gauged perfectly, and I think once it blocks it's going to be fine because the back has already been blocked and it definitely relaxes it. But knitting the sleeves, they look so, I don't know, just like bulky tight, and I'm like, oh, please block out. So I'm using the Cascade Ecological, and I believe it's just called Natural. I don't think it has like a color name or anything like that. And I have excellent news to share on this, because last time I shared that I really felt like I was playing yarn chicken, which I was not anticipating when I first started this. I unraveled a previous cardigan and I had extra, so I was like, I knit a whole cardigan out of this, plus I have like, I mean, it was like more than this, so I thought surely I have plenty of yarn. And then I realized I did not. And that's partially why it's not finished, is because I had to pause for a while I was waiting for the yarn. But I was able to take the swatch and go to the yarn barn in Lawrence, and I don't think you can tell any difference at all. Like, this was bought years ago, most of the sweater, and this is like a new skein, and there's no difference, right?
Are you still, well, yeah, I don't see a difference, but just to be safe, are you still going to just use it for like the cuffs and the button band?
No, I needed more yarn than that. The whole sleeve is out of this.
Oh.
Do you see a difference from the body to the sleeve?
If you do, maybe don't say anything.
I don't see a difference.
I don't see a difference.
I was kind of nervous because I feel like with dye lots, there usually is some difference, but this being a natural color, there's not dye in it. I was like, does that help or hurt my chances of it matching? There's no difference, right?
I don't see what, if there is, it's so
isn't.
subtle. Like, only someone who is really looking for it would see
No,
it.
there's no difference.
I don't think like a lake part, like no one on the street would see that.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I was so excited about that because, yeah, I was definitely playing more yarn chicken than I realized. Once I realized how bad the yarn chicken was, I stopped. And then when I found that the yarn was such a good match, I went ahead and went back to the ribbing and the sleeves. And I was like, I'll just do this whole sleeve in a different one. I probably couldn't get away with that if it was different at all. Because originally my plan was to knit everything that I could and just do the ribbing in a different color.
Yeah, and I think that would have worked. Like, I
Yeah.
think that would have been a good plan.
Yeah, but because it matched so perfectly, I just went ahead and now I'm doing a new skein.
Nice.
So very happy with it. I'm hoping to have it finished very soon. The only reason I don't have it finished is because of that yarn chicken situation, but I'm excited to have it done soon. I will say this one does have a double knit band like your book club cardigan does. And those take me a long time, so I'm a little
Yeah.
I'm a little hesitant about that. But other than
I
that,
do think
really
they're
like it.
beautiful though. Like, I think it's worth
Yeah, it's worth
the
the time.
effort to do the double knit button band. I would be curious. I've heard that there's like techniques so that you don't have to cut your yarn twice.
I've heard PetiteKnit has a tutorial. I have not tried it yet.
Yes, I need to do that. That's like one of my
Maybe I'll try it on
next
this
time
one.
I'm making a cardigan sort of thing. Yeah, maybe
Yes.
try it for that. So let me know how it goes. I'd be really curious. Because this one I did the technique where you end up with like 2 ends per button band.
That's how I've always
per
done it.
buttonhole. Yeah.
One more thing I'll share, and I believe I said this last time, but if you are very eagle-eyed, I switched the cables from, how is this? I have to think about it every time. Mine are right-leaning cables versus the pattern has left-leaning cables. I really don't think it changes anything about the pattern. I just felt like my right-leaning cables are like just a tiny bit cleaner than my left. I don't know why. And so I just thought, for what it's worth for me, that's what I did. And I'm happy with that decision, but I don't think you can really tell.
I know you did yours from like an aesthetic standpoint, but do you have like a favorite way to cable? Like, I prefer doing left-leaning cables to right-leaning cables.
I think I
'cause
like
something
right-leaning
about
better.
keeping the, because I always use a cable needle, something about keeping the cable needle in front of my project, I feel like I can like hold on to it better and it feels more secure. So like, I enjoy knitting
I guess
left-leaning
that's
cables
fair.
more than I enjoy knitting right-leaning cables. And like, it's not that big of a difference to where I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do right-leaning cables. Like, that would be silly. But like, if I had to pick, I would pick.
Okay, wait, can we talk about that? Because in our last video, we talked about socks. We did like a little Socktober, and several people commented that they're surprised that we use cable needles.
I love cable needles. I know there's so many videos out there and so many people who will do cables without a cable needle.
I've tried
And
it before, and I don't think they look as neat for me. I think they
Well,
look better with
I
a
feel-
cable needle. I don't know why.
I feel like I think it's because when I've tried cabling without a needle, I feel like I have to like tug on them because I'm scared that they're gonna like unravel. And I think if I was maybe did more, like this one, I maybe could have done it because this is like a pretty woolly wool, the Woolstok worsted.
Mm-hmm.
But like, oh, I've been hitting my microphone. With like the socks, for example, I feel like the sock yarn, because a lot of times it has like nylon in it, like it's a little slippier.
Yes.
Slippery. And so I'm really scared that they're gonna fall, and I don't.
I always use a cable needle, even for like moving one stitch over.
Same.
But I just thought that was funny because I was like, I don't know, is that not something most people do? So anyway, tell us how you cable. Do you use a cable needle? Do you not use a cable needle? Or team cable needle?
Yeah.
So
I think too, I need to get better about like change, but like I feel like sometimes the way I learn something is how I just prefer to do it. Like for example, we learned to knit socks on double pointed needles, and so that's like the only way I knit socks. Like I
think because I've tried others, I think that's still my preferred, but I do get what you mean. Like we just learned it and then that's how you do it because that's the way you were taught. And so yeah
I should probably get better about that.
Funny.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any works in progress?
I do. I'll talk about the one that I'm working on right now, actually. This one is, where's the back? Here it is. This is the Stockholm sweater by PetiteKnit, and I'm using Aloft by Knit Picks in the color Mountain Fern Green, or Green Mountain Fern, something like that. So it's a mohair, it's their like silk mohair yarn that they carry. I've knit this sweater before, but I used like an Essayer silk mohair. And I don't know why I used that mohair at the time because it was so expensive and it was one of my first ever sweaters.
I'm telling you, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
it was like me buying Merchant Mills for like my first sewing project. What?
Yeah. But looking back, I'm glad I did because I still wear that sweater all the time. I absolutely love it. However, I know I didn't gauge swatch for that sweater, and I think I made it just a little too small. Like, I still love the way it fits and everything, but I know I ran out of yarn and like had to order more, and I think it's because my gauge was off, and therefore my row gauge ended up using a lot more yarn than I had intended. So for this one, I did gauge swatch, and I ended up going up to a size US 7 needle, which is pretty common for me with PetiteKnit patterns. But yeah, it's just like a basic drop shoulder sweater. One thing that's kind of interesting about this drop shoulder actually is that the back doesn't have any short row shaping. You literally just cast on and make like a rectangle for the back, and then all of the shaping comes from the shoulder.
Interesting.
So for
I kind of like that.
I know, it's kind of, I think it would be a good like first ever drop shoulder pattern if someone was like kind of intimidated, because for some reason it feels easier to do short rows on like smaller sections, because the shoulders does have short row, and it also has like decreases here, and then it has increases out to kind of make that like circular shape for the neckline. So there's a lot of shaping in this area, but it's a much smaller space to be knitting the short rows and like increases and decreases, which I think makes it a little bit easier to keep track of instead of doing it on the back for someone who's like not used to doing shoulder shaping on the back yet.
I love this color so much.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the color. It's very different for me, but I think it's going to be really cute.
I can't believe you didn't tell me when you were ordering that yarn.
Knit Picks had a sale. I can't even remember why they were having a sale, but they had a sale recently, and so I ordered I ordered this, and then I ordered one other sweater quantity that I'll talk about when we get to acquisitions, but I'd been eyeing this color for a long time, and so when they were having the sale, it just seemed like a good time to do it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's been kind of nice to just have like some basic, stockinette on the needle.
Yes. I will go back to cables. I'll put this one back. I started working on this one now that I had it in my hands. I was working on a different one, and now we're just flip-flopping. I have spent so much time with this project recently. I think I had started it last time, but it was like just a little sliver of a sweater, and now it looks like something. So this is my Billy pullover by Sari Nordlund.
It's so cute.
I think it looks kind of tiny right now, but
does.
I have full confidence that it will
I
stretch
think this
with
part
blocking.
is gonna grow a lot too, like the honeycomb. I think that's gonna
Yes.
stretch a lot.
I
when
know. I
walking.
keep like putting it up to myself and stretching it because right now it does look kind of skinny, and I think that look kind of makes it look elongated, and then I'm like, am I done? But I don't think I'm actually done with the length. I think I have
Well, you're
quite a bit
using
to
the
go.
Woolstok worsted for this one too, right?
Yes.
Okay, this cardigan, I think I talked about it last time. When I was knitting it, I thought it was going to be way too small, and so I did like a mid-project block, or I think maybe I just blocked it after I finished the body before I did like the button band and the sleeves or anything. It grew a lot when blocking.
Keep telling me that because
I think you're going to be okay.
yeah, I do want it to be bigger. I sized up to the size bigger than what I would normally knit because I want it to be a little bit bigger. I've seen a lot of people on Instagram where it looks not like too tight, but just like it does look pretty form-fitting, and I wanted it to be not crazy oversized, but definitely like somewhat looser fit. So I am really optimistic that it will stretch. And the pattern says this as well, but when you first start this, the neckline looks so big. I was like, oh no, and the collar really shaped it up. I don't know if you did this in yours. I skipped the purl section on the collar. So where this part starts, there's supposed to be a row of pearls, and I'm just not super crazy about that look. I've seen it in a lot of designs and I usually skip it, and I'm really happy with that choice. I think it still looks really clean without that row. So that's really the only modification that I've made so far, and I think the only one that I will make.
I think I did include it when I haven't made the Billy pullover, but I have made, or I tested the Billy cardigan for Sari Nordlund, and I think I did include that pearl row.
And I think it is
collar.
really pretty. But for mine, I like that.
I think it's just personal preference. Like,
Yeah.
it's an easy step to either include or omit. So.
Yeah. I love it though. I want to knit the cardigan too. And really, it looks like a ton of cables, but it's not that bad because each row, or like each time you cable, it's on the same row. So I've done sweaters before where like one panel will have one chart, and then this would have a different chart, and like this would have a different chart, and you have to keep track of a lot. And this one, it's like you just have to count 4 rows. And so even though it looks like a lot, knitting it is not like too intensive. Obviously, it's not like completely mindless or anything like that, but it is, compared to what it looks like, it is easier, I think.
Yeah, at least it'd be easy to like keep track of like where you do all the, if it's all the same row, you just get it over with.
Yes,
in one row
exactly.
And then know where you're at,
And it's kind of motivating to be like, okay, 3 rows and then I'm on to the next one, and 3 rows, and I don't know, it's been going faster than I thought it would. So the only reason I don't think I've finished it is because I'm not being a monogamous knitter right now. Otherwise, I feel like I could have done more with it, but I really like it. I'm excited to have it done soon.
Yes. I'll talk about my next pullover. And that is the Olympia sweater by Claudia Quintanilla of Unit. So she was super nice and reached out asking if we wanted to receive a copy of her new book, Memory Lane, as well as a kit for some yarn to make one of the patterns. So this was the pattern that I chose to make. We'll put a picture up on the screen, but it's a pretty simple raglan that has a ribbon going around the neckline, so it has like a little bow in the back. And I really like the bow trend right now. I feel like they're very popular, but I think it's really cute. I actually started this one before the Stockholm sweater, and I was just really enjoying working with the mohair, which is kind of why I switched to that one. The reason that I took a break from this one was because I started getting kind of low on the first 2 skeins of mohair that I was using, and I want to be sure that I have enough of like the yoke to start blending it in with the sleeves, since it is hand-dyed yarn. So the yarn that they sent was this Amelia and Philomene, I think is how you say it. It's their Leona mohair. So let's see if we can if I can show the label It's so pretty and it's so soft. The label is all in French, and so I had to Google to make sure that this was correct. But it is 72% mohair and 28% silk, and it came with 459 yards. So I was super glad they sent this because this is a brand that I'd never heard of, and I don't know that I would have heard about it on my own. Like, this isn't one that I've seen in any store in the US that I can remember.
It's so pretty.
But it's so pretty. And they sent 4 skeins. I think they're all, like, they look the same to the naked eye, and so I'd probably be okay just, like, finishing out the body with the skeins that I was working and then using separate ones for the sleeve. But just in case, I want to be good about, you know, with the hand-dyed yarn alternating for a few rows before I, like, switch the other one. So that's why I took a break from this one, was because I want to be sure I have enough, like, little little guys to like work on the sleeves and make sure that that blends appropriately and everything. So, and then you had my winder for a long time, so I didn't want to hand wind this mohair, so that's why I kind of went on pause for a minute. But yeah, I love this yarn that they sent. They didn't basically, like, I sent them like, oh, I want to make a blue version, and then they sent this yarn, so I didn't know exactly what I was getting. But yeah, very happy with their choice. And then ironically, I happened to order some fabric from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club that I was going to make a skirt out of, and I think it goes perfectly with this yarn, so I'm really excited. I'm hoping once I finish the sweater and the skirt, like, I'm hoping that they'll go together and I'll have a cute little outfit.
It's gonna be beautiful.
It's gonna be so cute. So, but the pattern itself is just your basic raglan. The neckline looks really long right now because it's gonna be folded over, so it's only going to be half the length that it currently is. Usually when I'm knitting necklines like this where it folds over, I like to just knit into the round below and then like knit 2 together in order to connect them. And so like that's what I would have loved to do, but the edge of the like little keyhole, which looks super long right now, it's not going to be this long. The edge of the keyhole has like an additional detail. It looks like where you like pick up stitches and then knit a few rows in garter stitch in order to have that like look a little bit crisper and cleaner. So I wasn't able to, I mean, I maybe could have, but it would have been a huge pain to knit garter around this like super tight circumference. So instead I'm just leaving it flat like the pattern recommends, and then I'll sew it down later.
Oh, that'll be so pretty though.
There was one tiny mistake that I found just when casting on. It said to cast on an even number of stitches, but because there's slip stitches on both edge, I think that needs to be an odd number. So I cast on an odd number, and I did reach out to the designer and let her know. And they said they'll pass that along. So I haven't really looked to see if there's any sort of errata? Is that how you say it? Errata? Errata?
No,
there's
that's
not
not
a C
it.
in.
No.
You know when like publishers send out notes of like, hey, there's a mistake in the book. I haven't checked to see if they've done that or if they're planning to do that, but just a heads up, if you plan to make this sweater, I did cast on 1 extra stitch, and so there's 1 extra stitch in the body for me, and then to make up for it, to make sure that the back was the same way, I cast 1 extra stitch on here where you're joining the keyhole.
Oh, that's kind of smart.
Yeah, super, super easy, not a big deal or anything, but just giving a heads up in case anyone else plans to make this sweater in the near future.
Okay, I started a sweater from this book as well. You're very kind and sent me a sweater kit as well. So I am knitting the, I believe it's pronounced Aureliano sweater, and I'll show you the page from the book. It is an all over mohair colorwork sweater. And I have made a couple modifications. Let me grab it here. I am knitting it, it's on too small of needles right now. I need to go up, but we'll do that another time, not right now. So it's probably not going to look quite as
very
true
small.
to form, yeah. But I've got so many projects that I'm like, where are all of my needles going? Which is really a problem in my life. But at any rate, I am knitting it with Knitting for Olive. Let me hide this. With the main color being copper. Oh, I have it here. The main color is copper. I'm holding it double on size 5 needles. So it's double, but it's on somewhat smaller needles. I think the book actually recommends 4, but I went up based on my gauge. And then my contrast colors are, let's get one with a label. The Sparrow color. The X's here in the pattern, you can kind of see, let me hold this up. The X's, mine are pretty subtle, but they're with the Artichoke Purple. And then the white-ish color is the Marzipan. So it's got 1 base color, 3 contrast colors, all of it's held double. They sent me 2 of each color. But because I'm pulling from the middle and the outside, I'm only using 1 skein because I felt like 4 mohair skeins at a time. I was like, whew. And so I'm kind of wondering if I'll have extra of at least the like contrast colors. I don't think I would for the main color based on where we're at. It's already taken up a skein, but I think I will have some extra of some of the contrast colors, which is kind of nice. I did make a modification to this because I did the short rows around the collar as recommended, and I felt like it was very shallow, like it was going to look very flat, which isn't bad, but I was thinking for a mohair sweater especially, like I'm not adverse to mohair. I really like wearing it, and I don't usually find it too itchy, but around here especially I can kind of find it to be a little bit itchy. And so, and just the look of it, I added several short rows to it. So I like undid the recommended ones and I added more to it, which I do think creates, and again, it's hard to tell, I should have put this on bigger needles, but it creates a more like straight across look in the color work. So I feel like with the sample pictures, they follow.
When you're wearing it, that might...
That's what I'm hoping.
I think right now, while it's like all bunched up, it's doing that. But I think once it's to a point where you can try it on, I'd be curious. I think that'll fix itself when you're actually wearing it.
I know, I'm hoping to finish the yoke soon so that I can try it on. Because right now, I think I could, but I don't know, is it... I think it'll be nice once I separate the sleeves from the body and like have the entire yoke finished to try it on and really see where it's fitting. I think I'm correct in saying that Anna from Brook Willow is also knitting this pattern. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of fun to see what she's doing with it, and she's farther along than I am, I think. But I'm really hoping to have this done in fall because I feel like these are good fall colors. Fall color. Yeah. So we will get this one. This one's probably my, not slowest, because it really does go pretty fast when you're working on it, but just like the one that I've not made quite as much progress on yet, but hopefully soon. So that one's my third. I've got one more.
Okay, I've got one more work in progress too, and it's sort of a half work in progress because it's a pair of socks and I finished one, but then I've barely started the second sock. So this is my Laura sock by Sari Nordlund. It's a super cable-y pattern. So you can kind of see it's mostly made out of just like 1x1 cables that kind of create this like vine look, and it has these little diamonds with seed stitch in the middle. So pretty. So I'm using Coast to Coast classic sock yarn in the color Rooibos. And this is a yarn that I feel like we talked about a lot because I think I've started knitting socks with this yarn 3 different times. I think I started to make one that was, I did a striped version with pigeon milk, which is another color based from that collection, and I wasn't super happy with it. So then I decided to make the Maine Coast socks by Summerlee and could not figure out how to get those to fit my feet. They were just coming out way too tight no matter what I did. And so this is my third attempt, but considering I've finished one full sock and it fits, you're like, I think we're doing okay. So I'm gonna finish the second sock. It's super wonky right now because it hasn't been blocked, but it'll look better whenever
I think it looks really good right now, so blocking is just gonna add to it.
Yeah, it's just gonna help. I will say this sock has not been super fun to knit, and I've been trying to like figure out why I don't enjoy knitting this sock. it's just been really hard on my hands, and so I haven't been able to work on it as much as I would like to. And I couldn't figure out for the longest time why, because I've knit other socks that have this like 1x1 cable pretty prevalent throughout, and it really hasn't bothered me before. But I went back through all of the previous socks that I've knit that kind of had like similar looks to it, like for example the Peregrine socks by Sari Nordlund, or the I think they were the Kahaku socks by Yuka that I really liked. And I think the difference between those and this one is that this pattern only had one size for you to knit, and so you had to do 72 stitches. And so I'm using 72 stitches on size US 1, whereas all of the other socks that I've ever knit that had this like 1x1 cable really like prevalent were knit on size US 2 needles with like 60 or 64 stitches. And I don't know, something about doing these cables with that tight of a gauge, I think is just really bothering my hands, and I'm not enjoying it as much as I had hoped. Obviously, I didn't hate it enough to not knit the sock, but it was one of those where like I could only do like maybe 4 rows at a time before I had to take a break. And so I feel like I've like knit this whole thing in just like teeny tiny increments over like 2 weeks. And so I'm anticipating that the second sock is also going to take about 2 weeks. I have cast it on, but I've only done 2 rows, so it doesn't look like anything at the moment. Yeah. Also, all of the knit stitches that you see, other than like on the sole and everything, are all twisted, which doesn't necessarily help like making it more fun to knit. Like I don't really enjoy knitting twisted stitches, so I think that's probably contributing. I think it's beautiful and I'm really excited about it. It's just one of those that like, yeah, it's slow going. Also, I had used this yarn to do some contrast color of a different pair of socks, and so I didn't have a full 100 grand skein. And so when I weighed it before I started these socks, I think I had 87 grams. And this sock, maybe my math's not right, I'll have to check that. This sock, when I weighed it after I finished it, it was 41 grams. And I have 44 grams left. So
you can do it.
I think I'm fine, but I'm like cutting it really close as far as having like anything left over.
I was gonna say, I have leftover if you need it.
Yeah.
Because I have that color too.
Yeah. I know, that's kind of why I was like willing to take the risk on like knitting these socks. I was like, okay, well Rachel has some of this yarn left over too. So if I really need it, it's not like I'm like completely out of luck. But I think I'll be okay. It's just going to be close. Like usually I feel like when I knit socks, I have like 15 to sometimes even 30 grams left over. And this time I'm going to be like lucky if I have 3 grams.
It'd be nice to like finish a skein though.
Yeah.
Be like, I used every bit of this.
Yes, and not have any leftovers.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my Laura socks. I think that's my last whip.
I've got one more. Let me get all the tails hidden so that it looks somewhat, presentable. So Kate from Morka Knit, she messaged and invited me to be part of a testing group for her newest design, which was, would you say sponsored by Woolstok?
Yeah.
Like Woolstok was giving the test knitters yarn. So I didn't pay for this yarn, but not because of like YouTube or anything like that, but just because I was part of this test group. And I think Woolstok yarn is really beautiful, so I was like, yes, absolutely. I will say I have not done the collar on it yet, so I don't think it does justice to the design, but the Chantal sweater, her original version was a like, I don't know, textured, you like alternate slip stitches to create this really beautiful pattern. So it's kind of playing on the same design, but with a much bigger gauge, and it will have more of a like turtleneck, roll neck style. I believe she's calling this pattern the Chunky Chantal, or the Chantal Chunky, something like that.
The original one uses like a DK, so I used like a sport plus a lace.
Yeah, because you knit that one. Yeah, we can compare them. So it's going really fast. It's been wonderful to knit on. The color did come out a little bit grayer than what I thought I was getting, but obviously like I'm not going to.
It's still a beautiful
color.
Yeah,
I think it's really, really beautiful still. But yeah, I'm like slowly starting to crave color as I get all of these neutral projects. But I'll show the back of it so you can really see the texture here. I will also say this, and I think it's still worth it. This is Woolfolk Luft, and I have knit with it before because I, again, think Woolfolk is just absolutely beautiful, but I will say that this yarn pills, so I'm kind of anticipating a little bit of care going into it long term because I have worked with it before and seen where it will
I
pill
found
on you.
several Woolfolk yarns to put, like I love Tinned, it's their fingering weight. And Snow, same. The Tinned and Snow are the same, just Snow is
Like the
marled
marled,
and Tinned is like the solid version. It's so beautiful to work with and it's so soft. It pills.
Yeah.
It pills like crazy.
So because of that, I mean, Woolfolk is not the cheapest. If it's something that you absolutely love, I think it's incredibly beautiful. It can definitely be worth the cost, but I also imagine that there's a lot of yarns out here that you could really probably do this design with and it would look beautiful. But I am really excited that I get to do it in Woolfolk yarn. And this is like, it's got cat hair, of course. It's kind of like a chainette slash blown yarn. It's really kind of unique. So I think it is really nice because with the slip stitches, you would think it might feel bulky, but it really isn't. And I think that's perfect.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't feel like that dense.
Yeah, it doesn't. So really enjoying this one. I will go back and do the collar soon just because I think you'll get more of an effect with it. And I think I'll get more of an effect because I'm like, where is this going for me? But I really, really love working on it right now. So that was exciting that I got to be a part of that. And I think that's all for works in progress.
I have a couple acquisitions. The first one that I'll talk about is this Rowan yarn, which is the Alpaca Soft DK. We recently went on kind of a yarn adventure where we went to the yarn crawl for Kansas City. A lady that we know organized a limo and a group of people. Yes, hi Michelle. She organized, there were 19 of us that all went in on this limo. We all paid our share and everything. And then it just took us around to all the different yarn shops that were participating in the KC Yarn Crawl, with the exception of we didn't make it out to the one in Excelsior Springs, since that would have added a significant cost to the trip, but we made it to 4 out of 5. And it was just a really good time getting to meet other knitters, and they had mimosas going in the limo and everyone brought snacks and stuff to share with everyone. It was really nice. Michelle had bingo cards.
She gave out little stitch markers.
Yes.
And yeah, it was the best time ever.
Yeah, it was so cute. It was so fun. So this was one of the acquisitions that I got along that journey. This was purchased at the Yarn Barn in Lawrence, Kansas, which I think was our second stop of the day.
Oh, we should clarify that when we say Kansas City Yarn Crawl or KC Yarn Crawl, that is a very relative name because
it's very spread out.
Yeah, there's stores that are an hour away from each other.
Yeah.
So,
which was good because that gave us a lot of time in the limo to chat and see what everyone was working on, work on our own knitting. It was a really good time. But this was in the sale section of the Yarn Barn. It's just a DK alpaca yarn in this brown color. I think it's actually called chocolate brown. But apparently this is a color that the Yarn Barn doesn't normally sell. And so when they received this package of, or this shipment of this color, I think they only had 10 skeins. They didn't have a place on their shelf to put it, and so they put it on sale. So it was a really good deal. I got 10 of these skeins for $75, which is really nice.
It's beautiful.
I don't normally buy a yarn without a pattern in mind, but I've never really worked with Rowan yarn. And so this felt like too good of a deal to pass up. I was really curious to see how it would knit up. And part of me is it's because it's a dark color, I feel like I should maybe do just something that's a little bit more simple. I think Julie Hoover has a sweater called the Calvin sweater that I think this would be beautiful in. But part of me also kind of wants to do something cable-y with it because I don't really have any dark cable sweaters.
I think
From,
cables
like,
would be
is it
pretty.
worth it to knit something cabled when you can't see it? I don't know.
It's
We'll
not
see.
like a black though. Like you could still see the dimension in it. So
Yeah.
I think it could be worth it.
Yeah. So TBD, we'll see what this becomes, but this was a fun little acquisition that I purchased along our yarn crawl adventure.
So I also picked up a couple of things. I feel like we didn't go too crazy for going to 4 different stores, which was really good. But I did pick up an older edition of the Lina
I think so.
magazine. This is the oh, just kidding. This one feels pretty new. Winter 2024. I feel like I saw these designs quite a while ago though. When would they have published this for winter 24? Would that have been like January?
I have no idea.
At some point. It has a lot of color work patterns in it, and I've just kind of been wanting to do things that are not just like plain stockinette, things like, I don't know, texture and color work. This one especially, when I saw it on Ravelry, I was like, this is so beautiful. It is a fingering weight color work. And so I imagine a lot of time will go into it. They have some cable things as well, just like a lot of knits that are not necessarily like simple, but very statement pieces that I feel like you would be really proud after you knit this. And so I picked this one up. I haven't made any solid plans for what to do with it, but I was just really happy to get that one. I was excited about it. And you picked up one too, right?
I did. Yeah, this one was on sale because I think it's the summer 2023, so it's a little bit older. But yeah, I was really excited about this one too. Actually, the one on the cover is the one that I'm most excited about. It's this striped pullover, but in between the stripes are little lace patterns.
It kind of reminds me of some like coastal almost. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because the colors are not coastal, but I feel like the waves or something. There's something about it that I just think is very coastal.
Yes. This was the other one that kind of caught my eye. It's this super chunky mohair, like lace cardigan. I don't know.
When you say chunky mohair, does it use lots of strands?
No, it uses like a yarn that's like thicker, like literally like a chunky mohair.
Oh.
I can't remember what the brand is, but it recommends a particular brand. Let's see if it says.
Yeah.
But I think you probably could just, I mean, it might be crazy expensive, but I bet you could just use like a bunch of mohair.
That's what I was envisioning. I was like, wow.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think this one's super cute. Yeah, there's several in here that I really like. This one's kind of, I don't know if this one's my style, but something about it is really fun. Like this just looks like a summer fruit sweater, which is kind of fun.
Go tomato picking or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you really could. So yeah, so this was another one that picked up, and I'm excited to have. And I know we talked about Anna from Brook Willow.
Yeah.
She's doing a book knit along called the Book Willow.
No. We'll put it on screen.
Yeah, she's doing a knit. Basically, the point of the knit along is to knit things from books. So I definitely want to go through my books and like see what I can do. I do think the Olympia pullover that I've already talked about is probably going to be my submission to that knit along because I've already started it, and that is from the Memory Lane book, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I love that idea of like going through books because I feel like it's so easy to just go on Ravelry and like purchase a pattern and have it on your phone. But there's something nice about like having a physical book to reference.
And I feel like so many of the new ones are beautiful. Like they just have really lovely pictures and are just fun to flip through even if you don't get to the patterns right away. It's just like, oh, this is so nice to have.
Mm-hmm. So, which I feel like that's a good segue
Yeah,
into the Memory Lane book. So this is a book that Claudia from Unit sent us, so we both have a copy, and this is where the Aureliano sweater and where the Olympia sweater are from. So like I said, I think those will be our submissions into the
Oh, that one's pretty.
book knit along. But yeah, there's all sorts of really beautiful ones. Let's see if I can show. Like here's, for example, a really beautiful cardigan. The pictures in here are just really gorgeous. They did a good job with those, and it's like a nice thick paper that feels really nice. There's another colorwork sweater that really caught my attention.
Oh, that one.
Oh, this one. Yeah, here, this one really caught my eye. It's just like this really beautiful kind of striped colorwork, which I think is really cute. So I'm excited to flip through this more and look at all of the patterns, but right off the bat, they're really pretty. A lot of them involve like embellishing, like sewing on like beads, embroidery, or things like that, which I don't know that I've really ever done before.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever experimented
I think
with
it'd be
that.
fun.
Yeah. So yeah, very cute book. Very excited to look through it more. We've had a fun time just like looking at all the pictures because like I said, they did a really good job with like the photography, and I don't know, there's something about flipping through a book that's kind of fun.
So I've got one more acquisition, and I think that's the last of what I have for sharing today. I feel like it's been a lot. But I picked up 5, did I pick up 5? I think so, of the Kelbourne Scout in the color Graphite Heather. And I love this yarn. I've worked with it before because it looks rustic, but it is really pretty soft.
It feels really soft.
And
maybe not like Woolfolk soft like we were talking about, but
Yeah.
like for 100% wool, it's like really soft.
Yeah, for what it looks like, I'm like, ooh, this is nice, which I'm gonna have to gauge swatch. I'm optimistic that I might be able to get gauge without adding a mohair, but I'll probably have to add a mohair because I really want to knit.
I'm not as optimistic as you are.
I'm probably gonna have to add a mohair. I really want to knit the PetiteKnit Dagmar jacket. I'm just craving cables right now. I think I am really enjoying the texture, and I just thought it would be really pretty in this dark color. And then I was extra proud of myself because now I've seen where she's knitting the pullover version in a dark color, and I was like, I was on the same wavelength. But this is a DK, and I'm pretty sure she knit it on a worsted, and so I'm probably going to have to get a mohair to get the correct gauge for it, and I don't have a mohair yet for it, so this will probably be something that I wait till like December for. I want to finish other things, and really I had other projects I wanted to knit in fall too that I haven't gotten to yet, so I hoped not to have her in stash too long, but we do have plans for it. So that is the last of my sharing.
One more acquisition, and that is some fingering weight yarn and mohair. So this is Palette from Knit Picks, and then the Aloft, so same yarn that I'm using for this green sweater, but this is the color Denim, and then this is the color Navy. So I'm planning to marl those together, and in fact I've swatched so you can see how they kind of knit up together. It's a really, really subtle marl, but there's just like a little bit of dimension to it, which I really like. I ordered this because it was on sale. Like I said, I can't remember what they were having a sale for, but whenever they did, I decided to order this because I've been really wanting just like a basic navy sweater that I can throw on. I feel like I have a lot of like pants and skirts and things that would go really well with a navy sweater. And I have a store-bought navy sweater that I thrifted forever ago, but it's a little bit tighter than I want it to be. Like, it's not like super fitted, but I kind of want something that's like kind of oversized. So I haven't quite decided what pattern I'm going to use. Part of me kind of wants to just make a third Monday sweater because I know I've worn the first two so much. I'm like, oh, I'd probably wear a third one. Might as well. But also I'm working on 2 stockinette sweaters right now, so I might want something that's like slightly more interesting just to work on. So I don't know, we'll see what this becomes, but I think it's going to be really nice, just like DK, hopefully basic sweater that I can wear with several things that are already in my closet. And I want to get better about doing that, like being intentional about like, okay, I own, you know, XYZ pants and I need something to go with it, so I'll make something like that, so that way I know like I'm going to get use out of it and know that I'm going to wear it.
I have a navy sweater and I really love it, so I don't think you're going to regret it.
Maybe that's part of what's inspiring me too, is I know you have one and I'm like, wait, I need one too.
I would knit another one, so.
Yeah, so, but I think that's my last acquisition. I'm honestly feel like kind of overwhelmed with the amount of yarn that I have right now, but I know coming up, you know, there's going to be time over like Thanksgiving and Christmas and winter break in the next few months. So even if I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now, like I know I'm going to go through it here soon. I'm also super excited to start casting on some Christmas items, but I don't have anything at the moment to like share and get started on. But I think that's something that's going to be on my radar, especially within the next month or so.
Soon.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. We really appreciate that and are grateful.
And thank you so much if you've made it this far in the video. We really appreciate it and are so glad that you decided to sit and hopefully knit with us and you made some progress on whatever you're working on.
And if you have knit any of these pieces or the yarns or anything like that, we always love to hear that too, because it's just fun to hear other people's experiences as well with all of this. So
we always appreciate everyone's comments. So thank you so much for joining us.